So now we're going to just take a look at this code. And we're just going to kind of cruise through it quickly at a high level. This isn't how we create servers, but because we use packages where they're already built, but this is a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. And so the internet uses Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, TCP/IP, and then HTTP runs on top of that, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So TCP, we could actually program at the TCP level. And so here, there's a little program we're using from the net package. And remember that when we work in Go, we're going to be looking at net HTTP. So from the net package, a subpackage, HTTP, net HTTP. But we could also just go straight to the net package. And here's like stuff to do things on networks. And so we could do net listen and listen to TCP port 8080. So we get a listener and we get an error and check it and close that listener. And then we're going to do an eternal loop, so it's always looping. And what it's going to do is it's going to accept any incoming connections and we'll get a connection. And if we get a connection, we could write to that connection, hello from TCP server, and how is your day? And well, I hope, right? So we could write to that, and then we close the connection, and then it's ready to do it again. And so this explains that all. So on Mac, you know, you could go, so we could use Telnet to connect to this program. And so I'm just going to go to here and come up a level. Go CD, and we are in CD 016 and 01, and go run main.go. And so that's running now. And then here, I start that, and then go to another terminal window. So I'm going to launch another terminal window. And at this other terminal window, I'm going to do telnet localhost 8080, telnet localhost 8080, and telnet command not found, telnet localhost 8080. Start main.go, then go to another terminal window and enter this. Isn't that what I did here? Go run main.go, and then come here. I don't know why that's not working there anymore. Maybe Mac changed. Maybe I'm entering something incorrectly. Let me just copy that in case I'm typing something wrong. Well, that used to work. Not sure what's happening there. Anybody have any ideas? Mac, terminal, telnet, discontinued. Bring telnet back on Mac OS, High Sierra, medium. October 3rd, 2017, telnet was removed. Okay, never mind. So anyhow, no longer works. Telnet is gone. So that was a little telnet thing. We'd be able to check it. And I'll close this. Control C. Technology is always changing. And let's see if this one is also telnet. Cool. We can do it without it. So we get the listener, close it, loop over it, accept any connections, and if a connection comes in, we're going to launch that and go handle it. So that's going to launch in its own Go routine, and we pass in the connection, and then bufio new scanner. So bufio, godoc.org, bufio. Package implements buffered input-output. It wraps an I/O reader or I/O writer object, creating another object that also implements the interface but provides buffering and some help for textual I/O. Buffering, comp sci wiki. Data buffer, Wikipedia. Computer science, or just buffer, is a region of a physical memory storage used to temporarily store data while it's being moved from one place to another. Typically, the data is stored in a buffer as is retrieved from an input device, or just before it is sent to an output device. However, a buffer may be used when moving data between processes within a computer. So, my printer used to spool to a buffer, right? Like, and I'm sure it probably still does, but for some reason I used to be more aware of it, so maybe it used to be slower. But it would printers send all the data to a buffer, and then the computer sends all the data to a buffer, and then the computer can go on to the next process, and all that data is there waiting for the printer to draw from it. So we have Bufio new scanner. And if we go to index, new scanner. So type scanner provides convenient interface for reading data, such as a file of new line delimited lines of text. Successive calls to scan method will step through tokens of a file, right? Skipping the bytes between the tokens. The specification of a token is defined by a split function of type splitfunc. So we could have a page of data, and we could create a scanner to scan all of that into a buffer, right? And then we could say, right, successive calls will step through the tokens, and we could specify, and the token would be like, what do we want? Do we want a line of text? Do we want a word? Right? So we could call splitfunc to define what the token is, if it's a word or a line. And the default split function breaks the input into lines with line termination stripped. Split functions are defined in this package for scanning a file into lines, bytes, runes, and space delimited words. So you could get things into those. The client main step provides a custom split function. So you could split up something you read however you define it. Scanning stops. So here's scanning something to words. So we do type scanner, right? So constant input is this text. So that's, sorry, this text, here, let's go here. So here we have this text, this line, and then we did create a new scanner. And we have that text, which is an input, and we have to turn it into a scanner takes a reader. New scanner takes a reader. So here we have done there, done there, done there, done there. I don't know where I was just looking at it. Bufio. And I want a new scanner. I've got new scanner. So scanner and the new scanner, and scanner takes a reader, right? So this function here is strings new reader. Strings new reader takes a string and gives me a pointer to a reader. And this one wants a reader, IO reader. So I guess a pointer works fine there too. So we have strings new reader to turn our string into implement the reader interface. And if we look at strings new reader, I wonder if we could get to it from here. Strings new reader. New reader. Right? New reader string returns a pointer to reader, returns pointer to reader, that string, and then if we look up what the address of that reader is, or look up what a reader is, reader is this struct, and it has this method right here, which is the reader interface slice of byte int air, slice of byte int air, right? So since a reader has this method, it's implementing the reader interface. So this is reader from strings package. So that's kind of how that all works. And I just show that to you so you're starting to get a sense of the language and how to put things together from the different packages. So we get Bufio, a new scanner, right? We pass that in, and then that gives us our scanner. We asked for a new scanner, we got our scanner. This could be called anything, but it's called scanner. And then we're going to use scanner split because in the documentation it said, right, specification of tokens defined by split function of type split func. So here we have scanner split, so we could go look at that. When we have a scanner, we did new scanner, one of the functions is split. And split is going to take in something of type split func. Right? So here we have split. And then we have a split func right here. Type split func is going to be a function with this signature. So split takes in a split func, and we have Bufio scan words. So we're in Bufio and we have scan words. And so here are those functions, right? Defined with that funky definition. It has to be a function with this signature. And so we're scanning the words. And if we wanted to look to see how that's implemented, we could click on it and right, here's how that's all implemented. So we could look through that and see how they wrote it. So we get scanner split, and basically we're saying split up our text on words. And now we're going to count the words. So count is a variable to hold them. And scanner.scan, what does that do? Let's go back up here and look at scanner.scan. Scan advances the scanner to the next token, which will then be available through the bytes or text method, right? It returns false so it advances it to the next token. It turns false when the scan stops, either by reaching the end of the input or an error. So here we're saying for scanner scan, if there's nothing left to scan, it's going to return false, and this for loop will exit. Otherwise, each time it's going to advance to the next token. And then we're just counting. But this also said that we could access through the byte or text method. Well, here's the text method. Right? So scanner text returns string. So if we wanted to right here, we could print out each word. We could say, what's our scanner? .text. And that's going to return the word, but I want to print it. So I'm going to print it right there. Like, give me that text from that scanner, this token, wherever the scanner's at. And then we have catch an error if there's an error. And then print out the count. See if I broke it. So it printed out each of the words and then gave us the count. If this line wasn't there, it wouldn't have printed out the words. Isn't that fascinating? I think it's awesome. So we've got into all of that because we were right here. Bufio, give me a new scanner, and scanning the connection. Remember, new scanner takes something of type reader. So the connection, which is netcon, you know that's going to implement the reader interface somewhere. So we get our scanner, and then we loop over for scanner scan, and we get the scanner text, and then we print that out. Right? And then we defer, close our connection, and code got here if we're done. And so this is net listening on 8080. And the instructions tell us to, in your browser, go to localhost. So let's see what happens. 02. That's not where I want to be. All right. So my browser sent a request to localhost 8080, right? That request was received by this program, so it's listening. It accepts the request coming in, it launches that connection, and then I scanned everything that came in. I looped over it. I printed out the text for each token, each line, and then it gave me this. And what is it? Here is the stuff that came through from the request. So what's this first line right here? It's the method, it's the URI, it's the protocol, right? So that corresponds to what we just learned here. Understanding servers. The request has request line, headers, optional message body. So here is the request line, method, request URI, HB version. So here is the request line. And then it has headers. So here are my headers. And there's no message body. Whoa. When my browser went to this server, my browser sent this over, which is right in line with RFC 7230 or whatever, of making sure that, you know, my request has this information. All right, that was a long video.